Welcome into the Commander's Report. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. At the top of today's show, we're going to be discussing a big shakeup in the NFC East as the Dallas Cowboys have traded for a super talented wide receiver that definitely improves their offense, at least on paper. Then we'll get into some concerning news as to why second-round pick for the Commanders this year, Trey Amos out of Ole Miss, fell to them as far as he did. And then we'll talk a little bit about a lesson that the Washington Commanders could potentially learn from Amari Cooper's regression last year with the Cleveland Browns and the Buffalo Bills that could apply to the Terry McLaurin situation. Before we get into the content today, can we beat the Cowboys report? They just traded for a new wide receiver that we're going to be talking about here in just a second, and they just got 449 measly likes on that video. I think we can beat them right now, guys. Can we get to 500 likes on today's video? If I know this community, I know you guys are going to deliver for me. Help us win our like battle today by clicking that thumbs up icon. It only takes a half second of your time, and you can help us beat the Cowboys. So let's get into it here. Speaking of the Cowboys, as George Pickens, former stud wide receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers, has been traded to the Cowboys in a deal here that, they gave up quite a bit in exchange for George Pickens. They gave up a third-round pick next year, and then there was a pick swap in 2027 in the middle of day 3 there, with 5th and 6th round picks getting swapped there in 2027. So this creates, a really dynamic wide receiver duo on paper for the Dallas Cowboys. You got Dak Prescott, and then, of course, at quarterback, and then you have CeeDee Lamb, who they locked up to a long-term deal last year, and now you add George Pickens to the mix here as a true deep threat. Again, CeeDee Lamb plays most of his time in the slot, so Pickens is going to be their true X to win down the field. Dak Prescott is one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the league, throwing the ball past 15 yards down the field. So this is definitely a good fit on paper, and, this is definitely something here where Cowboys fans were like, man, we didn't draft a wide receiver. What are we doing? It seemed like they had their eye on George Pickens this entire time, and now that is a legitimate wide receiver duo that could be very good for them, at least on paper. But if you know anything about George Pickens, he is somebody that, according to multiple reports from the people on the ground in Pittsburgh, he didn't show up to meetings on time. He didn't show up to practices on time. Hell, he was even late for the Christmas Day game versus the Kansas City Chiefs this year. He's had effort issues on his tape, both as a run blocker and as a route runner. He takes plays off, and then he's also fought not only with players but with fans in the past, all right? So he is somebody that's definitely volatile, and he's going to an organization where, say it with me here, folks, what can go wrong will go wrong with the Dallas Cowboys. So I certainly expect that to happen with George Pickens' tenure here with the Cowboys. Now, I still think that Washington's offense is better. And by the way, this trade and the amount that they gave up for George Pickens shows that Washington really fleeced the San Francisco 49ers out of Deebo Samuel. Just giving up a 5th-round pick for a guy like Deebo Samuel, who's going to be their versatile chess piece on offense this year, versus the Cowboys trading a 3rd-round pick for essentially a 1-year rental in George Pickens. It's already been announced they're not giving him a new deal, so it's a 1-year rental, at least right now. I mean, I think that I like the Commanders deal here more than the Dallas Cowboys deal, but that's just me personally. And then Jaden Daniels at quarterback with guys like Terry McLaurin, Noah Brown, Deebo Samuel, and then the running backs we have here as well, not to mention Zach Ertz. Give me that offense versus any amount of wide receivers you're adding to the Dallas Cowboys with Dak Prescott. Jaden Daniels, I think, is going to be absolutely phenomenal this year. He's my favorite to win NFL MVP. And as long as we got Jaden, I still think the Commanders have the better offense. But something that's definitely clear moving forward here, guys, is that the NFC East is going to be a fun division. All right, you got the Philadelphia Eagles, who aren't going anywhere. They have probably the best roster out of anybody in the National Football League. Then you got the Cowboys, who still have a lot of talent on their roster, and they just added more with George Pickens. We'll see how Brian Schottenheimer works out as their new head coach. And then the New York Giants, man, their pass rush is scary, man. And they've got some nice weapons there on offense now, too. So this is definitely a fun division. It's definitely going to be a very competitive division in the future. And, this whole tradition where there's like a new champion in this division every single year seems like that's going to be very alive and well in years to come, which, of course, means I expect the Commanders to win the division next year. So true or false, let me know down there in the comments section. The Commanders will win the very competitive NFC East this season. Just give me a true or give me a false down there in the comments section for today's pinned question. YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. And when that happens, take advantage of that time by letting me know if the Commanders are going to win the division this year. So now we'll shift to some concerning Trey Amos news here, as ESPN's Jeremy Fowler says that Trey Amos fell in the draft this year because of a back injury that concerned multiple teams drafting in the early rounds of the NFL draft this year. This is what Fowler had to say on ESPN earlier today. Washington got a plus starter with second-round defensive back Trey Amos, but who has size, speed, and instincts. Selecting him at number 61 was considered great value. One aspect that might have hurt his value slightly, multiple teams discovered a back injury in the pre-draft process. This wasn't a major red flag for some teams, but it was at least a mild concern that, quote-unquote, probably caused him to slide a bit, unquote. However, people around Amos and the Commanders did not seem overly concerned by it. So listen, man, like whenever you hear this little thing where multiple teams put a red medical flag on somebody, it always makes you a little bit concerned, right? Because the possibility is absolutely there that Amos gets in here and he has this chronic back issue and he can never stay healthy. And of course, the best ability that any player can bring to the table is availability. So hopefully, this back issue that apparently Amos's team and the Commanders are not too worried about ends up being something that's a pretty much non-factor for this team moving forward and for his career, because sometimes these back issues in particular can be quite nasty. But I still think that Amos, even if this thing turns into a little bit of an issue, I still think it's a steal at number 61. He is a terrific player that's pro-ready in my opinion. He's got great speed. He can play in press. He's got great arm length and physicality, fantastic instincts in zone coverage. He doesn't have the best foot speed in the world or change of direction ability in the world, but his instincts more than make up for that. I think he's going to be a good starter in this league on the outside from day one and throughout his career if he can stay healthy, which I certainly hope he does. Plus, there's also the added benefit here that, you did bring in Jonathan Jones in free agency and you finally have some depth at this position. We know last year this was the big kind of bugaboo for this entire roster, was that your cornerback room was terrible. But now you got Marshawn Lattimore, who this team really still believes in as a press man corner. You bring in Amos, who if he stays healthy, I think is going to be a really good contributor on day one as your number 2 cornerback on the outside. And then you always drafted Mike Sainristil to play in the nickel anyway. I think he can be an impact player in the slot. And hey, if Amos goes down with an injury, Jonathan Jones can play on the outside. Sainristil can play on the outside if you need him to. So I really like that you have Jonathan Jones in there as a depth piece in case this turns into an issue. But plain and simply, it sounds like both Amos and then also Quinn and Peters, talking about Dan Quinn, the head coach, and Adam Peters, the GM, they don't seem too worried about it. So if they're not worried about it, I'm not going to get too worked up about it either at this point in time. But let me know your thoughts down there in the comments section. What is your concern level for Trey Amos's back issue here? Put it on a scale of 1 to 10 for me down there in the comments section. I'd put my concern level at around a 4. It's not too high, but it's certainly there. In just a second here, I'm going to tell you about our sponsor today at Fanatics. And while I'm talking about Fanatics and their terrific deal on Jaden Daniels jerseys, give me your scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not concerned at all to 10 being I'm super concerned he's always going to be injured. All right, now let's talk about our friends at Fanatics here, guys, where if you don't have a Jaden Daniels jersey yet, guys, what are we doing? This guy's going to be a Commanders legend if he stays healthy, knock on wood there. But, this is going to be a jersey that you can wear for the rest of your life, and it's going to be an iconic jersey, right? So you can go chatsports.com/Daniels right now to get this jersey from our friends at Fanatics. And if you use our link, again, chatsports.com/Daniels, I'll put that link in the comments and description of today's show. You click that link and you make a purchase, we get part of the proceeds here at the Commanders Report. Helps us keep the lights on, helps us pay rent, helps us do everything that we need to do to maintain our business here at Chat Sports. We really do appreciate all of the support that you guys give to us. If you want to help us out a little bit here and you want to get a Jaden Daniels jersey finally, go to chatsports.com/Daniels and get yours today. So now the Commanders are expected to give Terry McLaurin a contract extension this year. And you guys know, if you've been watching the channel, that I have been advocating for that. I think he's an awesome player, and he really put up true number 1 wide receiver numbers in production and tape, for that matter, last season. I think he's earned it with the way that he's remained loyal to this team despite all the terrible quarterback play he has had to endure. And he's been really productive despite those quarterback kind of struggles here in Washington for many years. But he is approaching the age of 30, and that's exactly how old Amari Cooper was last year, coming off an awesome season with the Cleveland Browns in 2023. He ended up regressing pretty heavily last year with both the Browns and the Buffalo Bills. And should that regression at the age of 30 potentially give the Commanders some pause about giving a massive contract extension to a now approaching 30-year-old Terry McLaurin? You can see the regression here from Amari Cooper, where in 2023, he was absolutely awesome, man. His film was terrific for a guy his size, the way that he moves, the route running that he brings to the table. You could make an argument he was a top 10 receiver in all of football in 2023. But then, in 2024, he gets less than half of the receiving yards that he had with the Cleveland Browns the season prior. And of course, the Bills trade a third-round pick to go get him, and then he kind of becomes a wallflower. He becomes somebody that's kind of blending into the background with guys like Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, and others getting more work than him towards the end of the season last year in Buffalo. If you would have looked at Amari Cooper heading into his age 30 season, and you asked me, would he be worth a huge contract? I would have answered yes to that question. And if the Browns would have given him that contract, they would have been in big trouble. So you take a look at the highest paid wide receivers per year in the league right now, guys, and you look at, where Terry McLaurin kind of fits in this kind of dynamic. I think he's going to make, definitely at least $30 million per season, but I think you could make up to like $33 million per season in the DK Metcalf category and get into the top 5 highest paid receivers in all of football. So the question is, should the Commanders take the risk of giving that kind of money to somebody that's going to be on the other side of 30 by the end of this next season? And personally, my answer is still yes to that question. I understand why some people have some trepidations, with a player getting older, the father time catching up with that player, especially if they're making a ton of money, is kind of a scary proposition. But Terry showed no signs of slowing down. I know Amari didn't either in 2023, but I really don't see Terry McLaurin slowing down, especially with Jaden Daniels throwing him the football. It's a little bit different when you got Deshaun Watson throwing you the football, right, versus Jaden Daniels. So I really do think that Terry McLaurin is worth the money, and I do think that an extension will get done at some point this offseason. But sound off for me down there in the comment section. Would you pay Terry McLaurin $33 million per season on his next contract, even though he is getting a little bit older? Give me a yes or a no down there in the comments section. And now, before I go, I do have one last item to discuss with you guys, and that is that the Washington Commanders are going to be getting a new alternate helmet this next year. Now, it's going to go with the black jerseys. They're getting a new black alternate helmet. And if you've seen the helmets, they've got the logo in front, and then they've got the numbers on the sides. Well, according to sportslogos.net, they got multiple sources saying that they're going to change this logo and change that alternate helmet. This is what they had to say. According to multiple sources, the Cleveland Browns, Los Angeles Chargers, New Orleans Saints, Pittsburgh Steelers, and Washington Commanders will all unveil new alternate helmets this year. The Commanders, meanwhile, have worn black alternate helmets alongside their black alternate uniforms since their rebrand from the Washington football team in 2022. We expect they'll adjust the decals to match their standard burgundy helmets rather than add a new gold helmet or any other color shell. Now, personally, guys, I would love a white one, all right? Can you imagine a white helmet with the burgundy logo, and then you have like a combination of burgundy and gold going down the stripe of the helmet there up top? I think that'd be absolutely sick. But I also love the black uniforms as well, and if you're only allowed one alternate helmet, then yeah, black is a good color in my opinion, and I do think with that yellow W on the side, I think that is going to be a really, really cool helmet that they're going to be unveiling this year. And who knows, they might even get creative with the face mask or something like that. Maybe they'll do like a yellow face mask or even a burgundy face mask. That they could definitely do some creative stuff, even though they're sticking with a black helmet. But I'm excited to see what this design team can draw up for the Washington Commanders in future seasons. That'll be it for today's edition of Commanders News and Rumors. Some concerning stuff, some I would say mostly concerning news today, but overall, things are still looking very bright here in Commanders Nation. I'm very excited for the future of this team, and at the end of the day, the Dallas Cowboys are going to finish third in this division, all right? So make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Again, a final reminder, we're doing that like battle with the Cowboys Report by Chat Sports. Our goal is to get to 500 likes today, so if you enjoyed today's content and you want to beat the Cowboys, click that thumbs up icon. And until next time, guys, hail to the Commanders.